Arcane. Oh my God. I'm so excited about this show. I know you're a fan of it too. Context. So Arcane, the TV show, the first season came out in 2021. It was so good. I absolutely loved it. It's based on League of Legends and like the lore of League of Legends. And I've gotten people ask me questions like, okay, I've never played League of Legends. Will I like this show? Yes. If anything, I think you'll probably like it more because you'll know less about League of Legends, and you could really view this as being its own separate thing, like not that tied to League, besides the fact that the characters are based on the original IP of playable characters in League. Like, come on, it's crazy. The animation's like the prettiest animation I've ever seen in my life. And the storytelling's amazing. I'm obsessed with all the characters. And then they left season 1. And we're not going to go into spoilers. Like, we won't, people who want to watch season 1 still or watch the new season 2 episodes, we won't spoil anything. So no worries there. But they left on a crazy cliffhanger at the end of 2021. And then 3 years later, we're finally getting season 2. And they're splitting it up into 3 parts, 3 episodes each. So just on Saturday of this week, they dropped the first chunk, 3 episodes. And then next week, 3 more, and then 3 more after that. And I think it's the most expensive animated show of all time.
Yeah, I saw that.
$250 million to make this 2-season show, and it's stopping at 2 seasons, which I love when like a creative team gets to stop. It's very much giving Gravity Falls. It's like, it's done. We don't need to do anymore. It's fine. Let this thing be a thing that finishes. I really love that. Has made me more excited for season 2 starting than like even just how good season 1 was. Charles, you were saying you've rewatched it 3 times.
I'm in the middle of the 3rd rewatch right now. So yeah, because for listeners that don't know, I haven't seen the new episodes yet. I'm just enthusiastically talking about them. But I really, really like animated TV shows, and I'm not like an art person, but I feel like animated stuff is just like the perfect art form for storytelling. For whatever reason, it always hits me like emotionally way harder than anything with live action. I think like there's one more level of abstraction for me to like emotionally connect with a character rather than like a person playing a character.
Yeah.
And Arcane is like, I really, really like animated movies and TV shows, and Arcane is like one of the best ones that there ever has been. And I think the episode 3 of Arcane, which I think is called The Base Violence Necessary for Change, is like one of my maybe like top 5 episodes of TV of all time. Nice. I really love that episode. And I think the thing that's so crazy about the show is that there's all these characters and they all want different things, and they can like align at times and disalign at times, but there's rarely a moment where someone does something that feels unjustified, or like even if it's like objectively like morally bad, you never feel like I like this character less for that. And it is just like it's like a beautiful mess of these messy people navigating like politics and magic and science, and it's really cool.
Yeah, there's an equal level of magic and science, which I'm a nerd for. It's like, oh, there's straight up mages in the lore of this, and then like scientists who can do just as crazy stuff as the magic people. Like, that's very cool that it's like trying to level those things against each other, which I feel like shows don't do very much. I'm in the same camp as you, though. I'm a huge animation person. I mean, like, looking at your background, I see a BoJack Horseman poster, Spider-Man, Spider-Verse poster. I'm the exact same way. I've rewatched BoJack Horseman probably 4 or 5 times. I adore shows that tackle really intense subject matter through the lens of like cartoons. I just think that's the best format to view those things oftentimes.
Yeah, BoJack is my favorite any piece of art of all time. I've lost track of. I'm like in the middle of a rewatch, and with my partner. We're on the last season right now, but I've seen it so many times. Yeah, and it's also a thing of people mentioned Gravity Falls. You mentioned Gravity Falls also. Like, that's also a very, very good one. Like, there's a lot of different ways it can be good. And I think what makes Arcane so cool is it's like such high budget animation, and also telling a story that is like unique to animation, which I think is also makes it hit different.
Oh, like I think so the new episodes have been fantastic. I've watched all 3. They're great. Get excited, Charles, because it's very much just more of season 1 and things are ramping up even crazier. I'll start with the one thing I haven't liked and then talk about every single thing I have liked. There's a lot of new characters getting introduced like really fast, which I thought season 1 did a really good job of. Here's Vander. Vander does this, Vander's doing this, blah, blah, blah. And you get to know Vander. Oh, here's, Powder and blah, blah, blah. Here is Silco and Silco, blah, blah, blah. Like, and you have a few episodes to sort of warm up to them before really crazy plot stuff starts happening, like the filler episodes, but you can't even call them filler episodes because like filler episode for one character will be like when another one is about to die or something, so they always kind of balance it. But here it very much felt like, ooh, a lot just happened at the end of that season. We got to introduce a lot of new people. And it's kind of like, here's this girl, here's this guy, here's this guy. Oh, this guy was in the background, but now he's way more interesting and animated way better. You know what I mean? So it's like, it kind of is giving a little bit like, ooh, we got to flesh out the cast a little bit really quick, which wasn't too bad. It's just something, it was probably the only negative thought I had the entire time I was watching it. So that's to its credit, if anything, that I was just like, I don't love that. But other than that, perfect. Like quite literally perfect. Yeah. Like I'm talking like I have no notes besides that one. I've love everything they're doing. And kind of the 3 main things that I think about, I was like trying to boil down like why is this show so good? So I'd explain it in a podcast format and I don't just be like, oh, hell yeah, it's pretty, I like it. Is kind of what you were saying. The human animation, like they mimic human movement and like facial expressions better than any studio I think that has ever animated anything. And I think that's probably because of the budget for being like, they're also super talented, but like there's tons of other studios that are doing amazing work that just don't quite do what they're doing with the really little tiny movements of like something will happen to Jinx and she's shocked and it's like you see her be scared and shocked and upset and come to terms with it all in her face only in the span of 2.5 seconds. And it's like very real, very emotional. And it's the kind of look in people's faces where it makes your heart kind of go, because you've like felt like how she's felt before. And it immediately makes me like lean into the characters a lot more because I'm like, oh my God, Vi just felt betrayed. And I don't need to hear a single word because I can just see it in the way that they're animating them. And I think that's because either the budget lets them do not as much movement. So it's like they barely move. They're just like Family Guy stock characters that like barely do anything, or they do exaggerated movements because they have maybe more wiggle room for like frame rates and stuff, but like it's better to exaggerate than to have no movement at all. But this one's right in the middle of it costs way more money to do like at the normal amount of human movement, than like too much or too little, which is like a weird middle road to parse, but it's like especially Jinx's face. Something about the way they animate Jinx is so real. Like when something happens to her and she's getting upset, I feel my throat welling up and like I get upset for her. Like even though she's clearly the antagonist and like is going crazy and is a sociopath, you still are like, oh God, I know how that like I know that a twinge of what she's feeling just based purely off the face movements. It's been amazing in that regard.
Yeah. Jinx as a character is like such a feat of writing to make her like she's like a wild card, but you also have sympathy for her, but you're also like scared of her on behalf of other characters. I also wanted to say another thing this show does so well is it does the like little human facial animation so well, and then it can swing in the other direction of like
just like screaming or something. And,
Well, I was going to say like going away from human and more to just like the visual intensity, like the huge style stuff of like it gets kind of anime at times. Like someone will do like a cool punch. I was in my most recent rewatch. I was like, oh, I forgot how much like slow motion there was in this because it's always used very well when it's like we need to sit in this moment for a second because it's crazy that this person just like dodged this punch or like flipped someone over or made this thing explode. And it really knows how to flip in between the like crazy big over the top visual effect and then those like quiet moments. I think Jinx as a character is a perfect example of like there'll be some like crazy elaborate explosion and it'll zoom in on her face and you're like, oh, she's losing it, and that's great. The
choreography of just everything, right? It's like you can't even it reminds me, it's almost kind of like a mix between Scott Pilgrim Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse kind of like animation style mashed together with their own unique thing. Like it's not just a mash of other stuff. They also have their own voice totally, but then I can also see other influences like getting shoved in. I am such a sucker for the overlay of the 2D animation stuff on top of the 3D. Oh, like whenever there's mist or splattering effects or whatever, they do this super crispy, like high fidelity animation on top. Like Vander will take a smoke and like breathe out the smoke, and it's not just 3D animated smoke. It's like 2D animation, and it fits in so perfectly. It's like kind of comic book, but not quite there either. And that's why it feels so unique. Just the layering of things is amazing. And that like my second point, which is the second reason I think they're better than this is better than everything I've ever seen, is they're really good at the show don't tell story method.
Yes.
Which is like any good showrunner will tell you, like, listeners don't want to sit there and just be lore bombed. Like they don't just want to like 5,000 years ago, like Star Wars intro panel for 20 minutes. Like no one, as much as we're nostalgic for the Star Wars panel, like no one actually wants to sit there and read. They want to watch characters do things and interact with each other and get lore through that way. They're so good at that. And especially in season 2, they're doing a lot of that because a lot of stuff rapidly changed from the cliffhanger to season 1 to season 2. And it had me going, well, what's going on in the underground right now that just happened? Like, I wonder what's going on. And instead of like two characters sitting at a table being like, oh, now we have to deal with blank and blank's going to do this and blank. Now this blank is fighting that blank. It's like they do this really beautiful scene of just like a character walking down an alleyway while all the crap that's been happening is happening like around them. And then there's like this scene of like this long table and like people who like died in the last season are like disappearing from the table. And then it kind of shows how the people that are left at the table deal with them disappearing. And it's very much like I got everything I needed to know about what happened from context clues of the non-verbal choreography of the scene dressing they laid out for me. And then by the time someone started talking again, I was like, I know what's going on in the other city. And no one had to explain that to me in the boring table, blah, blah way. It was just, and it was like to music that was really cool. And like, it still had all that really flashy animation on top of it too. So I was like, oh my God, I understand everything. Okay, let's keep going. And it didn't feel like I got bored the whole time. They're very good at that.
Yeah, it's deeply, and I obviously haven't seen these episodes you're talking about, but the show in general is deeply character driven, which I think is helps it feel that way because you're never like, it doesn't sit on like the world and explaining the world. It's like that's secondary. How is this person feeling about this at this moment? Yeah. You mentioned the Star Wars opening crawl as like an exposition thing, and I think that's a really interesting comparison because the benefit of a Star Wars opening crawl, if we think about the original Star Wars, there is like, some telling in that, but they do a good job of like, once the movie actually starts, they're like, we're just going to give you some context real quick. So we don't have to like pepper it in. Yeah. We're going to get it out of the way. And then we're going to jump in and you're going to be able to like put things together. And I like that way of doing it. Like if you have to confront the exposition, watching Arcane is crazy because you almost feel like you've had it. Like you always feel like you have all the pieces that you needed to put things together, and no one has actually like told it to you or explained it really. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, and maybe I guess I do. They kind of, it's like their way of doing that, right? Like, and so maybe the exposition scene in Star Wars isn't the best comparison because it's like the best we could do. Leave us alone. We were pioneering stuff back in the day. But yeah, like,
I think
that makes
I just want to say I think I was supporting your saying of that like that is an example of something the show doesn't even have to do, and Star Wars is hailed as like one of the greatest movies of all time. This has stepped past that, and it's very cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just think they're really good at that. And then the final thing that I think they're amazing at is like every moment is a storytelling opportunity in this show. Like you think you're just even when there is a conversation scene, which like every show's going to have conversation scenes. Not everyone's just punching each other in the face or like making out or whatever. Like, like people have to talk. That's how scenes come about. But every time conversations are happening, the camera will focus on very specific things in the scene, or they'll choreograph the way that characters are interacting or things happening in the background to tell you how characters are feeling or how the world is now different because of something that happened. And it's all very like, oh my God, I want to write an essay on like how this show is conveying themes through just shots. Like I was thinking of Breaking Bad, like,
yeah,
and like Better Call Saul. Like that show is also one that's just absolutely fantastic. There's this one scene in Better Call Saul that I think about all the time, which was Saul standing, and in the background was like a logo for a new law firm that he was setting up, and it was like an M and a W, and it looked like a stock graph with the M going up and the W going down. And he's talking, I don't want to spoil it, so like he's talking with the person he's going to set up the firm with, but the way they frame the shot is like the person who he's corrupting is on the upside of the stock of the logo, and he's on the left side going down of the stock of the logo. So they're saying like them coming together to form this union is going to lower that person's value because of Saul's influence, and that's like what that scene is saying. And I was just like, oh my God, like, and that scene was them talking about like how they're going to lay out the bathrooms of the new law firm or something, right? Like it's completely, it doesn't matter, but it's like they're framing that shot to do that and do that kind of world building storytelling just for people who are like, oh no, I think I know what's going to happen with this character. Like they do that kind of stuff all the time in the show, and it's so good. And there was like, just for an example, because like I feel like I can say that and it's kind of hard to visualize, like there was a scene in this season 2 where like there's a council, and there's like the upper city and the lower city in the Arcane world, and obviously the lower city is like the poorer class, and the upper city has all the, they're actually up in the sky and like have way more rights and all this kind of stuff. So there's a council that decides things in the upper city, and so things happen, and there's somebody who's in a wheelchair now, and as part of the council, so they come to a council meeting and they're in the wheelchair, and the camera is very focused on how hard it is to move a wheelchair in the council room, because the council has never had to consider like people with disabilities or people who are lesser than them. Like the room was crafted for people who can walk and are able-bodied, and things come easily to them, essentially. So now this person who's traditionally been like a very aristocratian kind of background character is now like struggling in a wheelchair, and it's like trying to go down the stairs to get their point across, and the chair's getting like a little bit stuck and like going down the stairs, and it's just like they don't like zero in on it and focus on it for a whole minute. It's like a very quick shot of just like the wheelchair getting stuck, and it's hard to move around, and no one mentions the chair or like comes up and tries to help them or anything. It's just trying to say like, oh, they're getting a taste of what it's like to be different. Like, like things aren't as easy for them anymore. Like they're thinking of the world differently. It does that kind of stuff 24/7, the whole entire show, that you can just like gobble up little thematic juicy bits the entire time, and I love it for that. It's so good at it. It's a notebook show. It's a notebook show. Like I'm just like everything's a notebook thing to me lately, but like I have like, a little notebook here and I'm just writing all that stuff in it. It's the kind of show you don't want to look down at your phone and look back up because you'll miss context clues for stuff to come, essentially.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, there's a few people in the Twitch chat that have said they don't like the music. I did want to ask you about this because I think that is my biggest issue with the show is the licensed music they choose. Is a little like E3 gamer core at times, of like, I don't know what person likes this music, but it's very much like, sure, like I like the theme song, but the fact that they got Imagine Dragons to do the opening of the show is very much like the vibe of this show. And maybe it's a testament to the show that it made me like really like an Imagine Dragons song.
Yeah. Okay. This is a disclaimer. I liked Imagine Dragons as a teen. Cancel me.
Yeah, I don't think they're terrible or anything. It's just
I was cringe about it. You're trying to be nice. Okay. I was cringe about it. I sit
vinyl. Down with the. You have vinyl?
I think
vinyl
so.
Imagine Dragons?
Oh, yeah, I do. I think I do. I'd rather just come in front of the allegations and someone peek behind my thing and see it like one day. I totally get that.
Allegations.
Like the theme song especially kind of grows on you because it, what's, oh, the misery, everybody wants to be my enemy, and it's like that's so 2013 core. Like I get it. It kind of grows on you. In terms of the music that they stack into the more singing, please, Steister. No, I will not be singing any more Imagine Dragons. The music they bring into the show is almost always to choreograph a fight. Like that's kind of the only. I'm trying to think. There might be a couple other times where they have some soft music.
There's a few times where it's like we were talking about licensed music, or
yeah, I guess so.
Score stuff.
Yeah.
There's like a few instances, like in the first episode, they like the camera goes to the underground for the first time when we get like a rock song. There's like a few montages that are set to the music, but it's usually not like the most important moments. It's usually like a setting up for something or like cooling down after something.
Yeah. I get it's kind of distracting, right? Like it if you're not vibing with the music, it's going to take you out of like how good the scene that's playing out of you is. I don't mind it too much. I kind of turn my brain off and just go, "Oh, this is pretty," and I like focus more on like the action sequences or whatever they're showing me. I will say though, there's a fight in episode 2 of season 2 that is like one of the best choreographed fights I've seen. I think in any Marvel movie.
That's exciting.
Like I'm gonna drag Marvel. Like I sometimes I like the Birds of Prey fight sequence in when she goes into the police officer area and she's just like is shooting those glitter bombs and stuff. Like that's. I'm trying to think of a single other fight sequence that comes to mind from any Marvel DC thing.
I really like. Actually, weirdly, like the one good thing about it's not a terrible movie. The Marvels has some like weirdly good fight choreography. Yeah. I know nobody like watched it, but it's a whole thing of the director really liked that Final Fantasy VII movie. Advent Children, I want to say, and it's like inspired by that. Anyways, no, I'm not. I think Arcane is probably better than most of that. I don't know why I'm defending this. Also, before I forget this joke, I wanted to say, as far as Imagine Dragons allegations go, I sit down with a pen and a paper and a D20, and I imagine dragons every weekend. So you don't need to be embarrassed.
That's way cooler than listening to them. You're
I'm glad you think so.
But yeah, no, episode 2 has a really, really good fight. And the song behind it is admittedly a little like whatever cringe. It might be an original song, honestly. I can't really, it didn't sound like any song I've ever heard.
The director's daughter. Have you seen, there's a M. Night Shyamalan movie Trap?
No.
It just came out and it's all about just this people getting like essentially trapped at this like Taylor Swift or Beyonce type concert, but the big pop star is M. Night Shyamalan's like niece, which is
really?
very funny. Yeah, like it's one of the main characters, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really care about any of these songs, but anyway, sorry, I keep completely derailing you.
Oh no,
Arcane is better than Trap, definitively.
That's good to know. But there's just a lot of care in the scenes being fun to look at for fighting, and also like character stuff's happening at the same time too, and like that kind of comes back to like the first point of just like the facial animations are really good. You know, when people are deciding whether to do the final blow or not, you can see them think it through as like a human would, instead of just like time to kill someone because I'm a robot murder. Like, you know, they kind of think about it and then do it. Like there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And there's the one in season 2, episode 2 has a lot of brevity in it, which is also why it was like fun. It was. I'm excited for you to watch it because it really is one of those. I can't even describe it without like spoiling essentially what happens. But there's a very cool weapon that gets used, and like the villain that the person is fighting is like crazy animated to the point I'm like freeze framing it to see like how did his arm move like that, like pause like this amount of frames is insane, and it just looks so fluid. It's very good. So, you know, I think they're very good at that, and I think that like maybe I'm just not the type of person to be that into like fight sequences either, but I can't see anyone contesting that like the fight sequences in this show aren't as good as any Marvel movie or DC movie. Like they are, like the one in season 2 with the stopwatch moving back and forth. I won't say anything more than that. On the bridge. Do you know what I'm talking about? In
season 2, you're saying?
In season 1, sorry. With with Echo.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well,
Oh,
I was gonna
amazing.
say the other reason not the Echo fights, the Arcane fights are so good is because the vast majority of the time when we have a fight that like the camera really focuses on, it is also a point of like great emotional stakes. Like there's a lot going on where we care about the characters and like whether they win or lose. So when people are being really cool or getting beat up, then you're like so much more emotionally invested than in like, for example, a Marvel movie when there's a lot of action, but it's not all as meaningful. Because they just want it to be cool and explosive.
I also don't want either person to lose, which is also fun because they're both such good characters. Whereas if I'm watching like, I don't know why the Man of Steel when he fought Batman came to mind. That's like the only time where I was like, I don't want Superman or Batman to die. That would suck. Like, other than that, it's like Iron Man fighting blank, like some dude. I'm like, kill him. Like I don't care.
I was gonna say like Civil War, Iron Man and Captain America fight. Yeah. That's like a kind of a good example of like
Thanos
I don't know.
was kind of cool, but I was also like, just kill him. I don't care. Like they can kill Thanos.
Well, that was good. Actually, yeah, I don't need to spoil any of those movies, but those are good stakes because there's a little more tension when they're fighting Thanos versus other characters because you actually don't know if they're going to win or lose versus like when Spider-Man's fighting the Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming. I love that movie, but it's like that would be so weird. That'd be so weird if Michael Keaton's the Vulture killed Spider-Man and then Spider-Man 2 is just called I don't know, Michael Keaton's the Vulture.
Honestly, it'd be interesting route for them to go.
It would be interesting.
Yeah.
Only Tom Holland wasn't so damn charming.
I know, and he's dating Zendaya. That dude's truly
That's
won.
True.
He
really has. He's Spider-Man and he's dating Zendaya. His job, that's like, I imagine that's how people feel about our jobs of like, wait, so you like playing video games and then you go to work and you play video games, whereas with Spider-Man it's like, wait a minute, you're dating Zendaya and then you go to work and you're dating Zendaya? What the heck, man? Your job is just Zendaya? I want that.
He has a super cute dog too. He's like, he brings his dog around with him. Oh, he's living the life. He's such a short king energy too. She's so much taller than him. I love seeing that. I love a little dude with confidence. I'm like, hell yeah. That makes him 10 times hotter as soon as she's a foot and a half taller than him or something. And she's wearing heels.
Really?
She's wearing heels on the red carpet because he doesn't give a F. He's like, yeah, wear heels. I love it, babe. It'd be a whole 2 feet taller than me. I don't care. It's amazing. I love that kind of energy. More in that in Hollywood. The last I can even think of that was like frickin' Nicole Kidman and what's his name, but then they were kind of a toxic couple. There's not enough short kings in Hollywood. More short kings in Hollywood.
I like that he's just what's his name.
She's what?
Like you said Nicole Kidman and what's his name?
Keith
and I was
Urban?
like, oh, I like that.
Was it Keith Urban?
I don't know. I have no memory of this at all, but I just like that you were like Nicole Kidman's the cool one, and then one of them dudes.
Oh, Tom Cruise. I think she dated a couple short kings. I wouldn't call Tom Cruise a short king though. He gives toxic Napoleon syndrome short guy. He's
short dictator.
Short dictator energy. I want short kings who are like he's probably pissed that she was taller than him, you know?
Yeah.
And she was married to, I think it was Keith Urban because she was, I don't know if Keith Urban gives short king. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. Arcane. When short kings come on the table, I get a little distracted.
The short king, Heimerdinger, is that his name?
What a short king.
What a short king that is.
Whoever has a hear me out of Heimerdinger is deranged.
Gotta be.
That's deranged. And that's coming from me.
I feel like there's gotta be like a cohort. I feel like it's not even that.
I'm trying to think.
I don't know who. It just feels like a vibe. I don't know. If no one claims it as a hear me out, I'll take it.
You can't just take Heimerdinger. It has to. The hear me out is you have to be passionate to convince others that it's worth it.
He is one of the more relatable characters of the show to me, only because he's so like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
And I like that energy. The show is good because so many characters are like, I have to do this thing. And he's the one that's like, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence.
Do that. You're like, he's kind of valid for that.
He's the most no worries if not character in the show.
He is.
Yeah.
And he just takes it too. Like so much bad
He
stuff
does.
happens to him. And he's like, guess I do this now. Like, Heimerdinger, aren't you like the CEO of the whole city? Like, can't you just do whatever you want? And he's like, I don't know.
I guess I'm getting shaved today.
Yeah, I do like his dog. Heimerdinger is not hot. I'm sorry to break it to everybody. He's cute. He's not hot. He's not a short king, but he's also not a Napoleon dictator. He's like little brother coded, even though he's 1,000 years old. I don't know how else to put it.
He's like 300 years old and he's still.
But he's like a little bro.
He got little brother zone.
Exactly. Thanks for the raid, Nextlander. Man, I'm so excited for more of it. And like kind of what we were talking about at the start. Like I love that I know that it's ending. Like I love that there's not a season 3 in 2028 or something. It's like, nope, we're gonna be done. It feels like the pacing's good. It's not like not that much stuff happened in the first 3 episodes or too much stuff happened or whatever. It feels like the pacing was really good. Characters are starting to act crazy and different and interesting. My only thing was there's a lot of new characters that I was like, oh my God, I can't, this is a little bit too much, but I get it. They need fresh meat, so to speak, because no spoilers, but a lot of people die.
Yeah.
And just the animation is like literally one of the prettiest things I've ever seen in my life. Like it's so fun to look at.
Yeah, it is a thing. I don't, maybe once I start watching season 2, I'll feel better about the fact that it's ending. I just like it so much. I want it to go on forever, but I would rather it end soon and well.
Yeah.
I think it's also a thing of like, there's so many things I like about animation, but one of the hardest things about it is like, there's so much budget and planning that goes into making one season than another.
Yeah.
That like, when a season of a live action show does well and then you greenlight the next season, I guess it depends. If it's Stranger Things, it's a different story. But a lot of the times it doesn't take as much effort to just like jump back in and start filming new seasons or new episodes or whatever.
Yeah.
But like with animation, it's like Invincible. I don't know if you've seen the show Invincible on Amazon. Very good show. Incredible season 1. And then it was like, they were like, all right, we got approved for season 2. We hadn't started, like we hadn't gotten our like order of operations ready, because you kind of have to be ready to like churn them out back to back. So like season 1 came out and then it was like a few years before season 2 came out, even though it's only like 10 episodes of 2D animated stuff, because that's just the kind of thing you got to do for animated shows. So I am glad at the very least I won't have to wait for another season of Arcane again, because I'll know how it goes. But yeah, good stuff.
You can always play League of Legends, Charles, forever.
I have not played League of Legends at all.
I've not played a second of League of Legends.
I think a part of the reason is, and this is such a minor stupid thing that I care about in games, I just want it to be like, if I do an attack, I don't want to just like have the punch animation and then the other guy just does like a generic like I want to see my hand hit their face, like Arkham style. So any game where I'm just like throwing out orbs and I don't see it hit them, then like I want it to feel reactive,
Yeah. Not just
maybe
like press button, get point.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't play it because people that play League are crazy. Anyways.
I don't play it because I don't think anyone that plays League is ever like, you gotta play League, dude.
No,
they're all like,
I've ever talked to is like, don't start.
This was just a clip from our Patreon exclusive podcast called Bonus Pod. If you support MinnMax on Patreon at the $5 tier, you unlock Bonus Pod each and every week. Haley McLean is joined by cohorts to talk about whatever they want. It's kind of the sister show, the companion show to the MinnMax Show podcast. So there's even more content in here. Also, we take calls from members of the community and we can really dive into the weeds on stuff. So if you want to more than double the amount of podcasts from MinnMax every week, support MinnMax on Patreon at the $5 tier. Thanks so much.